right, hi everybody. We're gonna get started, and maybe some people will come in later. But we've got a limited amount of time and two really fabulous speakers, so I want to get straight to it and hopefully open it up to conversation at the last third of the presentation. So really quickly, my name is Brendan Cormier. I'm a senior curator of exhibitions and contemporary program at the museum. And I lead the contemporary program team, which is in charge of doing all of our installations during London Design Festival, which includes kind of selecting what goes in the museum and how we work with collaborators. And this project was really dear to us, the one we're going to talk to you about today. If you haven't seen it yet, it's called Plasticity, and it's in the Daylit Gallery, close to the Casas courts. And it's a monumental, over 3 meter tall, 3D printed sculpture by the architect Niccolo Casas. And what's really special about it is that it's using special reclaimed ocean plastic developed by Parley for the Oceans. And so we're going to have two talks today, one from Thomas Gorton from Parley for the Oceans to talk about how they work, their modus operandi, their mission, and I'm sure it's going to be fascinating. And then we're going to bring Niccolo Casas to the floor, and he's going to talk about his practice. And I think, in general, from the contemporary program team's perspective, what's interesting to us in particular with this project is both, how a practitioner works in the space of 3D manufacture with reclaimed materials, but also thinking about a company and how a company works at scale. So often we have, in design, we delve into kind of design problems, coming up with kind of niche solutions when what we really need is scaled up, massive global impact solutions. And so I think we can learn a lot from companies like Parley. So without further ado, I'll bring Thomas to the floor to give his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brendan. I'm Thomas. I'm really pleased to be here today. I've had a really nice hour or two walking through the museum. So I'm just going to give you a kind of brief introduction to Parley, an oversight of the work we do, the problems that we face, and hopefully some of the solutions. So Parley is a collaboration network. It's a space where leaders, creators, thinkers come together to protect and discuss and raise awareness for the beauty and fragility of our oceans. It was founded 10 years ago by Cyril Gutsch and Leah Stepken, both designers by trade. And it was a chance meeting with the legendary ocean activist Captain Paul Watson that was the inspiration really for them to drop everything they were doing and quit their design agency and launched Parley. And it started out as a series of talks, actually founded in the heart of the art community. The first talk was at Julian Schnabel's house. And a decade on, we're 10 years this year, and a decade on, a lot's changed and a lot's evolved. We're now active in 33 countries, intercepting marine debris. We're running education programs around the world, and we're turning intercepted plastic waste into the materials of tomorrow. And we focus on three major threats at Parley: the climate crisis, the fishing crisis, and the plastic crisis. So as of 2021, overfishing has contributed to a 71% decline in the world's shark and ray populations, and some of the practices are really harmful. For example, bottom trawling, which is the practice of dragging huge heavy nets along the ocean seabed. That actually contributes as much carbon to the atmosphere as the entire aviation industry. And also, oceans cover so much of our planet, 71% of the Earth's surface, but so much of it is ungoverned, and so human rights abuses out at sea are really common. And in terms of the climate crisis, ocean temperatures are rising every year and hotter than they've ever been. Glaciers are melting at alarming rates, and plastic is absolutely everywhere. This is a beach in Bali, a really, really beautiful part of the world, absolutely decimated by plastic. And the sad reality of an image like this is that it's very likely that this material, this plastic, came from thousands of miles away. Plastic and marine debris is often affecting communities who have absolutely nothing to do with the origin of the problem. So the problem, as I was saying, plastic is everywhere. It's in whales, it's in birds, animals, marine life is growing up in plastic, it's in plankton, and it's in our blood. Every minute, the equivalent of one rubbish truck of plastic is dumped into our ocean. It never goes away. Plastic, it doesn't biodegrade. And we really believe that it's a design failure. We can only end the problem by inventing new materials, something that we are working on. And in the meantime, we're saving sea life by cleaning up the shorelines and our oceans, and by upcycling plastic waste into ocean plastic, Parley ocean plastic, we hope to turn a problem into an opportunity. So our approach, the oceans generate half of the oxygen that we breathe, and so we developed a strategy called the Parley Air strategy, which is avoid, intercept, and redesign Parley Air. So avoid plastic when you can, intercept it when you cannot, and redesign the material, your methods, and also your mindsets. So by avoiding it, this is what we do around the world, raising awareness through education programs, through talks. We intercept it, as I was saying, and now we're active in 33 countries around the world, and upcycling that material into Parley ocean plastic, redesigning it so that you can see a Bayern Munich kit modelled by Ian Robin, Clean Wave sunglasses, which is our sunglasses brand, which is made out of 100% discarded fishing gear, and Adidas shoes up there. And I just wanted to talk about the cleanup network. It's really the cornerstone of the organisation, working tirelessly to protect marine environments around the world, removing plastic waste from beaches, from coastlines, rivers, mangroves, and the open ocean. And we've had over 500,000 volunteers now. We've had over 14,000 cleanups, and it really is a movement that's growing all the time. And so here's a map, and you can kind of get an idea of where we're active around the world. And so, yeah, we're looking to turn problems into opportunities, marine debris to ocean plastic. And this is a render of a Parley Air Station. We have one in Hawaii that's a real hub for the community there. There's education programs happening there. There's the robotic arm, which I'm sure Niccolo will talk more about. And we've just launched in Parley, India. Just launched Parley, India 3 weeks ago. And we'll be installing up to 2027, there's going to be 600 air stations in India. And here is the robotic arm, a partnership in collaboration with ABB Robotics and Nagami, 3D printing furniture. And this is an example, I think, as well of the versatility of Parley Ocean Plastic. This is a couture collection by the designer Iris van Herpen. And yeah, just felt relevant to really talk about our connection to the art world and the artistic community, something we really value, cherish, and believe in the power of. Parley, as I said earlier, was founded right in the heart of the art community with Julian Schnabel, who actually designed the Parley logo. And we've worked on various different projects, including plasticity, obviously, which Niccolo is going to talk about, and also with other artists such as Doug Aitken, Jenny Holzer, David LaChapelle, Rosemary Trockle, Kenny Sharp, and many more. And I really like this quote from Cyril, our founder. Parley was founded in the heart of the art community. Artists are driven by true intentions, transparent and clear in expressing their agenda. The artist is therefore the strongest messenger and perfect driver for change. I believe art has the power to initiate conversations that might otherwise never take place. Art allows us to rethink, to recalibrate, and to collaborate. And this is Doug Aitken's work, Underwater Pavilions, which I really, really love, engages the living ocean ecosystem as the viewer swims into and through the sculptures which create reflective abstractions and operates as an observatory for ocean life. It's really beautiful, I think. Just a seal, checking it out. And these are surfboards that we made with Katharina Gross, and these are sold to raise money for impact work that we do around the world too. And these are Parley bags created with ocean plastic with a variety of different artists. I really wanted to end this talk. This is by showing you a short film. This is a documentary series which we produced and created this year called The Air We Breathe. It goes into 3 different locations where we have major initiatives, Australia, Hawaii, and South Africa. And I think it gives a really good insight not only into the problems, but to the work that we're doing, and talks to different activists, Indigenous leaders.
When Aboriginal people lived here for 40,000 years, it was quite pristine. Make a comparison to plastic. It's a small amount of years that all of this thing has happened.
There is a saying in my culture that says, if you bend the bark of the tree while it's still young, then it will shape into whatever direction you desire. So if we stimulate the kids, we teach them at such a young age, they can choose to come join this beautiful fight. It's a fight of becoming connected with nature.
The wind, the light, the clouds, the currents, the tastes, the smells, those are all what you belong to. The place comes first, and the only ownership that you have is its stewardship.
So I want to thank the V&A for having me today and the London Design Festival. It's such a special occasion and such a special location, and it's magic to be here and to share the stage, to share this conversation with Thomas and Brendan and with Parley in general. And as you have seen, I think it's really important to talk about my work today, but it's really perhaps more important to focus on the possibility to be part of the solution, to be part of the change, and to be part of, in this case, of Parley for the Ocean. And it's really easy. You can collaborate with them in many ways. And for what concerns my case, I literally, when I was invited to the Biennale, I'm going to talk about that in a second, I wrote to them to their website, and they just answered me back. So it was, we didn't have any, common or shared friends. They're an open network, really looking for collaboration, for ideas, for people that want to be active, which is the most important thing today. So my name is Niccolo Casas. I'm an Italian architect. So sorry for my Italian English. And I run a multidisciplinary practice for design and innovation. I try to combine several fields of specialization so as to offer an innovative approach, vision of my academic and professional discipline. Today I'm gonna talk and focus on the word coexistence, and because it's really important for me, for my work, for my research. There is this wonderful quote by Timothy Morton, a philosopher that I truly admire, that says that ecology is about radical coexistence. So when you talk about radical, of course it talks about radical ideas, radical approaches, radical attitudes, but also about radical in the sense of unexpected ways. I think that in his case, if you have the chance to read his book, Dark Ecology, he talks about the necessity for us as human beings to find ways to coexist even with the toxic part of nature, and actually a large majority of this toxic is we created as human beings. In my case, in the case of collaboration with Parley for the Ocean, is toxic plastic that we once created and thrown away, and we have to find a way to coexist with in a radical way, even with the toxic substances that are all around us. In my way, coexistence is everywhere. In my work, is about coexistence in the sense of lexicon between, as you see, complex natural patterns and forms and linear geometries, but also about we're gonna see in a second between digital and real. And also in terms of collaboration, I had the great chance in my life to collaborate with three amazing women, Iris Van Herpen, Anouk Wieprecht, and Beth Cartier, in three different fields: haute couture, fashion tech, and artificial intelligence. And I think it's really important today to today, but always to stress out the importance of women today in innovation, in technology, in culture, and in art. Concerning the Iris van Herpen, because for a really nice coincidence, we discovered that we were both starting collaborating with Parley at the same time without actually knowing about that. I had the chance to collaborate with her in Redesign fashion, and in her case, haute couture, applying digital tools, digital design tool, and digital fabrication tool to haute couture. Together we design 5 or 6 different dresses, a handbag, 2 or 3 sculptures, and we made probably 100 of drawings and tests and samples. What is really important, since I've been quite a few times criticized by working in haute couture, always saying, you work for only a few people, they're really rich, the dresses are really expensive, they're meant for, special occasion that ends up in a museum or, again, homes of rich people. But it's really important to understand that, all fields, all innovation then are going to affect and change all other fields. In this case, I'm going to just compare the philosophy, the approach that is behind haute couture and fashion industry. If you think about haute couture, you think about on-demand products, on-demand dresses, durable material, innovation in terms of design, but also integration between innovation and craftsmanship, and low energy production. On the other case, we have mass production, we have short-lived products, polluting approaches and fabrication processes, and energy-demanding fabrication processes. Of course, there is a difference in terms of cost and of prices at the end for what concern the single items, but what I really believe, and what also Iris van Herpen really believes, is that thanks to digital design and digital fabrication, we can democratize the principle and the ideas and the approaches that are behind haute couture and analogically transfer those principles to the fashion industry. Of course, we need new forms of coexistence in terms of digital design, of digital fabrication, today also of digital creativity by collaborating with the artificial intelligence, and also new markets, since today I was talking with a friend that is working in the fashion industry, and she was explaining that 10% of products are today sold for Instagram, for social networks. So if you have the possibility to expand and again, the idea of haute couture and the idea of digitality to this percentage, we can really affect, even if it's a small percentage at the global scale, it's a really big percentage. The idea of not fabricating at all. Okay, this were just 2 nice pictures that show the importance of the digital in terms of design and construction, but also new forms of coexistence with the craftsmanship, the manual work, what is done by the hand in not digital ways, and how the digital can reinvent everything that is traditional. Those are some of my last collaboration with Iris, and you really see the quality that we can achieve in terms of design, in terms of flexibility, adaptation to the body, and again, those are on demand, so you could literally then take the same approach, the same process, technology, and 3D print let's say in the near future in your local 3D printing laboratory. But what I was talking before was about the idea of not producing at all, not fabricating at all, thinking about promoting the idea of designing for the metaverse and also design for in a digital way for filters. Because if you buy only for showing what you have in social network, actually you could buy only digital items, and this is something that is happening, and it is something that in a way we should foster, because again, sometimes the best solution from an ecological point of view is really not fabricating at all, instead of fabricating in an ecological way. Those are some of my collaboration. Again, it's in the case of 3D printing, is what is really important and what is really interesting is also the aesthetic quality that you can achieve, the intricacy, the lightness, because again, while you are working in innovation and while you are trying to drive the innovation in different fields, your designs become symbols for change, symbols for new understanding of the same field. So it's the aesthetics that becomes in a sort of way a medium, and it is really important to engage with an audience and to find a way to communicate. Another woman, in this case a kid, that really had a strong impact in my work, again in terms of communication and medium and message, was and is Greta Tumberg. 2 years ago, when I was invited to the Biennale, I was reading her book, Our House is on Fire, and at a certain point there is a really interesting passage where she answers critiques for not going to school, and she replies to critiques saying, "Why should I be caring for a future that soon may be no more, when no one is doing anything to save, to protect that future?" And I start thinking that if a kid can think about, stopping going to school to find ways to promote, to communicate that the future is important, that we have to save our and their future, and to save our planet, we should do the same in all our fields. It is important architecture for me, it is important design for me, but what is the meaning of today doing architecture, doing design, working in art, working in fashion, without thinking that there may be no future in a short time? And obviously this had a strong impact in my work, and I couldn't think about, design a single line without changing my idea of design and architecture. And so I had the great chance to get in contact with Parley and start talking with them. And you know about Parley and their global cleanup network and their new material and so on. We have been introduced. What is really important is that the material is exactly the same quality of a virgin plastic. So, and you can also create a palette that can be used with new technologies, with 3D printing and so on. But what is really important is that, and what we want to show with Parley, is that it's not important anymore to think about an architectural project, an artistic project, a design project. We should change that approach and think about architectural initiative, art initiative, design initiative that is thinking about what comes before the fabrication and what comes after the fabrication, and the importance of creating symbols to create a communication, to create a narrative, so that we can talk and raise awareness about the problem of our ocean, of our planet, and also show that there are solutions and that at different scales, but that everybody can really engage and be part of this attempt to change the way we inhabit our planet, because again, the way we design, the way we create are part of the way we are as a human being. And so from plastic we have the chance to create symbols. And if you think these are 200 kilos of upcycled plastic, we know about all the process, but if you really think about what is inside plasticity, there are like 200 kilos of plastic that were once created. Perhaps they were, most probably they were like plastic bottles or plastic webs that were drinking and thrown away. They went to rivers, they arrived to the ocean, they moved to the ocean, and then luckily they were collected by Parley for the ocean. But if you think about the damage that they created along this process, it's impressive. So no one want to coexist with plastic. We all want to find new material, but we all need to coexist with plastic, because the plastic we have and we are still creating are going to stay. So, and for a long time. So we should find a way to not only to, again, recycle plastic, but really to collect, to clean, and so to upcycle plastic, and to employ those plastic in design furniture, in sculpture, in architectural constructs, by, again, using innovation, using radical approaches, in this case, again, robotic fabrication and robotic 3D printing. Just showing you the video. It's concerning the time of this, it took, just if you're curious, 2 days to 3D printed 3.6 meter high architectural constructs. And it was created for the Biennale. We wanted to show, to create a piece that was, again, a metaphoric representation, a metaphoric idea of the coexistence between a linear and geometric path and some more organic and natural shape. In this case, are fractal geometries that coexist in one unique piece, becoming again the metaphor of a possible coexistence between a human being and the nature, and between a human way to synthesize and to think about the world in a really linear way, and the way natural design and organize, which is complex, organic, and fractal. Okay, this is, if some of you didn't see the piece yet, is how it is beautiful shown and presented here at the V&A. Plasticity is only the beginning. Is an art piece. Is an architectural construct. It was an attempt to use the same plastic, the ocean plastic at the architectural scale, printing a 3.6 meter high sculpture. But it's the beginning. With Parley for the Ocean, we are currently talking about the possibility to 3D print a small house, a plastic house, a small shelter for developing countries, so that we can again think about not an architectural project but an architectural initiative, where a shelter, which is a house, which is the first and the most important thing for humans, can emerge from collecting plastic, from engaging with local communities, for teaching a culture of recycling and teaching a culture of coexistence with the world. But at the same time, also there is an educational part in that, because you can teach how you can use 3D printing, you can use digital design and digital manufacturing and digital assembling. So, and of course, you can create symbol. Again, it is an idea of resilience. So transforming a problem in something that is positive, and again, in the same way you can transform a toxic material in a beautiful piece that is in a museum, you can transform a toxic situation, a human situation, like again a shelter piece for developing countries, in a unique occasion of engagement, of culture, of education, of growth from a cultural point of view in local communities. Thank you.
We have about, I think, 10 minutes. Yeah. Thanks, Niccolo, for running the clock down on this one.
Thank you.
I think I'll just ask 2 questions maybe, and so there's some chance for the audience to open it up. But thank you. I mean, it was super stimulating. Both of your talks had me thinking a lot. So just to kind of get straight to one, I think I would... What I was surprised by, Thomas, with your presentation, because I hadn't looked that much into the details of it, was I was curious to know what the process of the cleanup was like, and I was surprised by actually how relatively pedestrian it was, it seems. So these cleanups are essentially just people going to the beach and picking stuff up.
Yeah, that's kind of it.
And the reason I'm surprised is because I think like a lot of people in the audience would agree that, you know, the internet has kind of been awash over the last 10 years with kind of radical new innovations of drone pilot boats that go into the water and, you know, do these massive hauls. But this seems to be the one that resonates, that seems to be the simplest to implement?
Yeah, I mean, I think also there's an element of real community building that we see as being kind of powerful about the way that those cleanups run. There's a lot of people who return, you know, and are kind of doing them every week with the same people, and that grows. And it kind of goes back, I guess, to our kind of, you know, we do believe in the power of that communication in order to drive change. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and be like, you know, our cleanup in the Seychelles yesterday saved the world, you know, like but, you know, incrementally as that grows and the kind of, I guess, even that happening, as you were talking about, with symbols of change, I think there's power in that.
Can I just add one thing? I think it's a really interesting question, and it reminds to the notion of coolness. So what is cool in a way? And I think that's what Parley is doing from in the way they communicate, in the way they present themselves, etc. Is the idea that ecology, in their case, ocean protection, is cool, and it's a value. So. That's why they are engaging and they're working with our artists, with architects, and so on, because it's really important to communicate the idea that sustainability, ecology, ocean protection are a value. It's something that if you can choose from, you have 2 products and one is ecologically sustainable, it's going to be cooler than the other one.
It's similar, I guess, in terms of, like, you're talking about lifestyle, like vegetarianism, you know, how that became a lifestyle, you know, and I think that's something that we're trying to communicate as well.
Oh, it's super interesting. I mean, I recall a few years ago there was a great project from Studio Forma Fantasma, and they were looking at recycling at a broader scale, and they kind of posited this idea that at some point with extraction, right, you're going to have extracted everything. There's nothing left in the earth that you can extract anymore. At which point mining actually turns into a process of above ground mining. And so what was so interesting to see this was like, this is a kind of just a very basic kind of version of above ground mining.
Yeah.
But you take it away from the language of industry of mining, and you just say, as you say, Niccolo, it becomes an everyday act. So actually, it's a culture shift to say that every day, you know, if 7 billion people are engaged in the act of kind of collecting and reorganizing our world's materials, that's one way of going about it, which I think is really fascinating. Secondly, so I can open up to the questions, I wanted to touch on a point you made, Niccolo, about rethinking the entire production process from before, product, and after. And so, of course, with your sculpture, but with everything, all the kind of demonstration projects you're doing with Parley, you are essentially reintroducing a plastic product into the world. So I'm really interested in how much thought both of you had in kind of mitigating the after. So, you know, once a new piece of plastic, which, you know, already good has been done in the kind of the reuse of it, surely the next kind of big challenge will be like, how to stop it from falling back into the ocean and washing up on somebody's shores. Is that like the after life of a product, of a thing, is that something you think about in more detail, Niccolo? And is that something, are you beginning maybe to think about, maybe that's the next step for Parley to kind of to get into?
So in terms of next steps, I mean, like as I said in the talk, you know, we totally believe in plastic as being a total design failure. You know, so we're looking, I guess the next step for us is new materials, you know, away from that. And obviously, yes, there is, you are reintroducing a material back into the world, but I guess it's one with purpose and use, as opposed to something that's in the sea, kind of harming marine life and washing up on coastal communities and affecting their way of life. So we kind of see it as being something valuable, and we see the products that we're creating as being, again, symbols of change. You know, they are kind of communication pieces as well about the problems that we face on Earth.
Yeah, it's. I wouldn't use exactly reintroducing. I would probably use displacing or changing the location. If you think about Duchamp work, you know, everything in art is about taking one thing from one point and putting in another point and changing a little bit, and you change something that has no value in something that become an artistic masterpiece. I don't want to say plasticity is an artistic masterpiece, but the thing is that it's everything that is around it. Then in terms of communication, in terms of education, but also in terms of funds, because again, we hope one day to perhaps sell the piece to a museum, and the revenue will go to Parley for the Ocean. So we are gonna found again the new cleaning, new education in terms of circular economy and so on. So hopefully, and then of course, if you want it, you can also buy it, decompose it, and create other products, because it's plastic, it's virgin plastic. They set up a wonderful system and process for continuous recycling. So if we don't need a sculpture and we need a chair, we need a series of chairs in a place, we could use it.
Cool. I'd love to open it up to the audience. Yes, I knew there would be many questions. I think we have some extra mics here. Sorry.
Hi.
So I'm curious how Parley goes about working with groups in those targeted areas, like in South Africa, Australia, Hawaii, for both long-term and short-term, because it's like there are the collections, obviously, but are there ways that you're able to help facilitate infrastructure for economical improvement?
Yeah, so we just launched Parley India, for example. So that's working with the city of Andhra Pradesh, Visa Kapatnam, to make the entire region plastic-free by 2027, creating 20,000 jobs. For example, in South Africa, we have education programs, Parley ocean schools. We're teaching kids to swim. You know, so that kind of, we're not just kind of there in those communities just cleaning up plastic. You know, it's kind of a lot more holistic than that. And it's something we take really seriously in terms of the way that we're working with those local communities.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, thank you very much. Just also interested to further that a little bit more about business model and about if you can tell us anything about how much is kind of funded, whether you think the money in the future needs to be through private sector or more through governmental, or, you know, what do you think it will take to really scale the work that you do? What's the business model?
I guess working with, like, for instance, so working in Parley, India is working with governments. And I think that is probably what it, you know, takes to really scale, to kind of make that a kind of, to make it truly global, I think, rather than relying on, private sector funding, I think.
I think there are three massive elephants, I should say, in the room. One is Shell, BP, Exxon, and of course Aramco, the world's biggest company and biggest polluter on this planet. Mm-hmm. If you don't deal with them, you don't go forward. The second thing is language. Niccolo, it's very interesting listening to you. How do you translate art and design language into a convergence language for technologists, engineers, and scientists who work for those companies to make changes which are substantial? Because at the moment, we have 480 million tonnes produced every year of plastic, useful plastic, and we have 1.8 million tonnes of biologically produced plastic right now. And the last thing is the idea of the human condition, that it's the human that ends up throwing this away. It's the human that makes the waste. We enjoy plastics, but we are not particularly thoughtful and mindful about how we deal with it. So this will come down, I think, in the end to sociology. It will come down to politicians to actually make and grasp these issues. And one interesting thing, one positive thing that's happened recently is Patagonia. Mm-hmm. And Patagonia deciding he would give everything away for the sake of this $3 billion of his own income or of his own assets or whatever, to try and make a change to this. So for me, those are the key things. I maybe should just say I work in regenerative bio-nanotechnology. I'm a professor up in Newcastle. And we have two teams, trying to look at what can we do that benefits the human through materials which are not based on fossil fuels, and what benefits agriculture, which are not based on fossil fuels. But all the time we keep coming back to this problem with Shell, BP, Exxon, and Aramco. Okay. Thank you. Not a question.
No, but it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Did you want to respond to that?
No,
I think we agree. I think that's a full-on agreement.
I mean, it's we could talk, weeks about what you just presented us. I was thinking while you were talking that Timothy Morton, another words that he used quite often, other than coexistence, is love. And it looks romantic, but I think it's really, it's a key point. If we start loving animals, we probably start changing what we eat, and the way we eat. If we start loving objects, we don't throw it away, we try to find a way to reinvent it. And if we start loving, the people that we have around, we think about our future, but also about their future. So I think that's, it seems it's a really easy answer, but I think that's love for things, for people, for other, living entities in our world. It's probably the first and the main answer to the question that you raised.
I think ending on love is a very nice way to do it. Unfortunately, we are out of time. I feel like we could talk a lot more in greater detail, but we can always keep the conversation going outside. So thank you, everybody, for showing up. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.